we're always hearing about forever giants and there were so many popular giants during the World Series era, but what about the players the fans love to hate? Maybe they gave them a chance initially, but for whatever reason, they earned their unpopularity. And so part 2 of my conversation on the most unpopular giants in recent memory next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. And I'm coming up on 5 years hosting Locked On Giants. Can't believe it. It's gone by so fast. Thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And as I said, coming up today, this is going to be part 2. I highly encourage you to check out part 1. It was a lot of fun. I got a lot of good feedback of my conversation with Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres. We are discussing, I want to be clear, players who are on the team since we started hosting our shows, who are the most unpopular players on our teams. Not like, oh, who's my opinion? Who do I think are the worst Padres? It's no, who are the most unpopular players that have been on the Giants since I've been hosting Locked On Giants, which is 5 years. And so some have asked, like, what about AJ Pierzynski and Armando Benitez? And for sure, those guys would be on the list if we were going back further. But we're talking like in the last 5 years. And so there were too many to name in one episode. So coming up today is going to be part 2. Coming up tomorrow, the everydayers out there, you're going to hear about the latest from spring training. We've got a Keaton Wynn elbow thing going on. And does that mean what we were already thinking this team should do, which is they should go out and add some established starting pitching? And if your young, inexperienced guys are getting hurt, does that improve the likelihood of them adding one of these players like Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery? So we'll get into that topic tomorrow. But without further delay, part 2 of my conversation about the players the fans love to hate on their own team with Javier Reyes. Here it is. There was somebody on the 2021 team who was hated even in 2021.
Could it be Tommy La Stella?
Tommy La Stella.
Go ahead.
Absolutely hated.
Go ahead.
Absolutely hated. Wasn't a big contract, but it was like one of the bigger contracts at the time that this new regime had handed out. Mm-hmm. And he just was never good. He had 2 bad Achilles. We learned like deep into the season one year that he had surgery on both Achilles. We knew he had one Achilles worked on, and then it like came out in like August. It's like, oh no, he had both Achilles, like he had surgery on both of them. So like he was unathletic. He didn't hit. He couldn't run. Like he was just like didn't belong on a baseball field. He belonged in like a wheelchair. Like to take care of his Achilles, you know, like
I know what you mean.
He was like
I'm
injured.
looking at the numbers right now.
He was injured all the time.
This is the type of decline, Ben, that turns you into the Joker. You know what I mean? Granted, this happens in baseball a lot, so you have to get used to it and understand. But just to illustrate for people, Ben's not joking around. Before signing with the Giants, just to highlight a couple of years, including his first, let's start even before that, 2017, OPS of 861. Year after that, he stumbled a little bit, 672. But then after that, 832, 819, 845, 792, and then 713, and then 632 OPS wise, just to illustrate the exterior numbers for fans.
He couldn't play defense or run.
So that was like, you had to hit, and he didn't hit.
Right.
So,
but it's like he also wasn't like a big power hitter or something. Yeah. So it's like, what is he bringing to the table? So he was hated just simply because, he like it was such a small deal, which is, these days they have given out some larger contracts. So it was kind of like small potatoes, no matter like whether he performed, but they kept giving him chances. And so that kind of like, I think there was some infuriation with the front office and with Gabe Kapler for like just continuing to believe in him when it was just time after time after time after time. He was proving that he just wasn't able to do it. So they did end up cutting him loose with a year left on his contract. And that was like the first time they did something like that.
Yeah.
So I've got
change things either.
Yeah. He's done. I think he's unsigned and probably maybe career over at this point. So that happened fast, and it started with the Giants, and it was immediate. I've got two others, if I may. Do you want to go first, rapid fire, or do you want me to guess, or do you want me to guess or tell you?
I'll guess yours right now.
Okay.
Can you tell me the year?
Last year.
Last year? Who the heck is on the Giants last year?
Yeah.
So like 2023 or 2022?
2023.
2023? I mean, you guys had two players that were signed in Haniger and Conforto, my boy, who both disappointed. But Conforto was playing while Haniger was mostly hurt. So I'm going to go with Michael Conforto. Was he hated?
I think he was not. I think there was expectations and he didn't live up to them, and there was like frustration with that. But I wouldn't say hated. It was two pitchers, Alex Wood and Ross Stripling. Look up the numbers for Alex Wood last year. Look, even the last 2 years, or Ross Stripling. Ross Stripling,
I've been obsessed with Alex Wood too.
No.
I know, but
there's a reason he signed with the A's.
I was so convinced.
They're both on the A's now.
I know. Oh wow, yeah, that tells you everything.
Alex Wood. I want to say his ERA was like 6.5 last year, and yet he complained about his role. And like wanted to be a starter more, and was like wanted to pitch deeper into games more. And I don't know. I just think it's a culmination of frustration with the player, but also with the front office, and also with the, Kapler, for like continuing to run these guys out there when they had some young promising players who weren't getting opportunities. So, and those are the two guys when I said they like actively, Wood was a free agent, but I'll add Anthony DeSclafani to the list. The reason he was so good in 2021, so was Alex Wood. But Wood was more of a complainer. Wood was like always complaining about his role. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our good friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. And, and I just think there's not a lot of love for Wood or Stripling, and probably even, to be honest, Jock Peterson, even though there were good times, the long history of being a Dodger and just kind of some of the lackadaisical stuff. And we heard that there was like too much goofing around and like card playing towards the end of last season and not enough focus and preparation. And then he liked an Instagram post that was disparaging of San Francisco on his way out the door.
We're doing a lot.
And he's
been going around a lot lately. I've noticed with
players. Yeah, but he's from here, and so like I don't know, man. Like you're a Dodger. That's how I feel. Like you're a Dodger, bro. And I think he'll be treated like that. I think the first at bat walks in Arizona, I think he's going to get booed. And even though he was on the team and had his moments and was kind of fun, but I just think he's just not a Giant, you know?
So your final two, just to let's repeat all of your selections on this lovely, hateful filled episode really quickly one more time for the listeners.
Okay, so I forget who was first.
Melanson,
Strickland,
yes,
Coonrod, La Stella, Samardzija, Alex Wood, Ross Stripling, and then I mentioned Jock Peterson and Anthony DeSclafani. Yeah. And they actively traded away Stripling and DeSclafani. Yeah. So that's part of what makes this offseason like kind of feel good is like you got rid of some guys who fans were not happy with.
Absolutely. And that liking the post is very funny. It's definitely, guys, not to get too, on the podcast, but it's definitely just an innocent thing that people tend to talk about certain cities the most that are like most unsafe. I'm looking at you, Ratty Telez, going to Milwaukee, which has the highest crime rate in the country or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the guy has no idea what he's talking about.
It's a narrative, I guess. And there's plenty of narratives that go both sides. But
San Francisco is a beautiful city. It has a lot of unbelievably nice areas and views, and there are definitely some problems and some areas you want to avoid. But it's a great city overall.
I would reckon people who feel this way to look a little bit at the entire country, I think is important. And I'm not saying one place being worse than this, although in the case of Brady Telez, I wasn't kidding. Like in terms of violent crime, I'm pretty sure Milwaukee is much, much higher than San Francisco.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. And they say, oh, Bay Area native, and he's from like 2 hours away. So it's not the Bay Area.
Exactly. Ben, would you like to guess my last rapid fire selections?
I mean, Hosmer, come on.
Yes, Eric Hosmer is on there. I'll get to him in a second.
Okay. Shoot. Recent or like kind of past?
Since recent. So since I've been hosting the show. Because in the past, it's like, not Andrew Kashner. Andrew Kashner wasn't hated. It was just disappointing. And I think there's a difference. But go ahead if you got any more on the Padres lore. Because you have it. The Padres hatred has been so weird. There's been so many characters that have almost become memes. At least the Giants players have become memes. Where like, except for Jock Peterson, where it's like everyone knows how bad certain players are on the Padres. You got any guesses? Or you want me to go ahead?
No, I'm blanking. Go ahead.
I've got a lot. I want to quickly mention Ian Kinsler. I remember him being really hated by the Padres. I don't fully remember why, but it seemed like it stemmed from him getting a lot more playing time than he deserved just because he was Ian Kinsler. And he was horrendous for the Padres. I believe he hit below 200. Let me pull it up really quickly.
I got a guess too.
217 he hit with the Padres, 278 on base. Yikes. He was dreadful. And I think people were like, start Greg Garcia, who that year at second base, 248, 364, 354/9. Not incredible, but a lot more helpful than Ian Kinsler. So I think people were frustrated with him. So that's just an honorary mention.
Can I
Adam Frazier?
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, yeah.
Adam Frazier, that's a great. Oh yeah, I told you at the time of that trade. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that trade one bit. You bought high.
Bought high. I don't think he was hated as a guy. I think everyone knew this is a Preller thing. I don't know why you bought high on this guy, but that's my thing is I don't think people hated him. They hated the baseball him. You know what I mean? So it wasn't quite there for him. Dinelson Lamet, a tiny bit, but it was more a sad hate. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're just like, I hate this because you were literally a top 5 Cy Young finisher, and then you opted not to get the surgery, and your career has basically been over since then, and it stunk. I know the Dodgers fans love to pretend they beat the Padres fair and square. That was really cute. They lost to Nelson Lamet and Mike Clevenger in that series. So 2 rather infamous players, especially the latter.
Can I guess one?
Yes, go ahead.
Rougned Odor?
No, he's only hated by me.
Okay.
He's only hated by me.
He's so bad.
His past stuff in Texas. He was actually really obscenely clutch for points for the Padres. Right. He was the only one coming up, so he was fine.
All right.
I don't like Rougned Odor. I will say, for someone who's with the Padres for a small stretch, Jake Arrieta, kind of one of the, not the face, but one of the like, yeah, that's what happens when you have no depth. On top of some of the comments he had made about masking COVID and all that stuff. Not to get too much into that. People didn't like him for that, and he was really bullish on it, saying and talking about it really harshly, and then came in and was awful. So he's up there, but not there long enough. Chris Paddock, I can't decide on, because I can't. He's weird because I think people didn't like his attitude at points of like the sheriff and all these things. That was his nickname. Right. He did have a little bit of a vibe to him that was like he thought he was a little bit better. But again, he seems like he still treated all the fans well, so that wasn't quite there. So maybe the odd field results weren't there, but at least he was kind of nice to the fans, similar to Will Myers, who was just buying people shots at the bar after they beat the Dodgers.
Nice.
Number 1, everyone knows who it is. He's blocked me on Twitter.
Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins, and you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just heading on over to the website myself right now and looking up the NBA. We're out of the All-Star break, and we've got Warriors action coming up. And let's see, their upcoming game is against the Lakers, and the Warriors are favorites at home at -190. The spread at -4.5, and so you can bet on that and a bunch of other things. Just almost limitless options over at FanDuel.com/lockedon, where, like I said, if your first $5 bet or $5 or more bet wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Ben, I would argue for someone who played for a team I follow and or love, whatever team I'm a fan of, is at least in the top 3 of my most hated players ever. And to quickly summarize, because I've done this before, Google my channel and look up Eric Hosmer. You will find I broke it down. It is not just because he was bad. That's part of it too. It was because he was bad. It was because of the contract. It was because every single time this guy didn't perform, we would get little reports from people who are reporters, and I believe them, always talking about how much of a great leader he is. That's cute. That's adorable. We love it. And by the way, I have heard sources behind the scene that do confirm he was a great teammate. That's great. And the problem, though, is that every time he would boot a grounder, when that you could look up, you've probably seen the video. Eric Hosmer is the worst player in baseball. You can find it on YouTube.
Hilarious video. And I will promise you, there's a lot of Giants fans listening who think Eric Hosmer was good. And Javi is here to tell you he was not good. He is not good at all. And
he's like
defensively,
a playoff merchant. You know what I mean?
He's
all of his reputation. Playoff merchant. So instead of being like a BABIP merchant, it's like, because his style of play was more conducive to putting the ball in play, and sometimes you'll get really hot. Start of the 2023 season, or 2022 season, I'm sorry, he was hitting like 300. He was amazing. Everyone's freaking out. I was like, yeah, but his BABIP is like 390, guys, and he doesn't run fast. So he's getting very lucky, just to give a little bit of
it's going to come down.
Elementary.
And it did.
And that's just a basic introduction.
And defensively, I think people think he has a reputation for being great defensively, but he is like bizarrely bad. If you watch that highlight or low light clip,
everyone go look it up.
Like his footwork, like I could easily play, or like at least footwork wise, a better first base than what you see in that video. I mean, just go cover the bag. Like, what are you doing?
It's inexplicable errors. It's not like up grounder. He had those too, but it would be like, why are you catching the ball like this?
Yeah, like what are you doing?
Why are you waiting for the ball to get to you while you're running to first instead of running and then planting like this?
Yeah.
Why are you calling for it and it just inexplicable stuff?
That ball that dropped over his head in Houston. Oh my God.
It's that, and it is so. It's not just the contract. It's not just that he was bad. It's not just because of the leadership. It is because that would be used to deflect everything. Mm-hmm. And then 2020, all of a sudden, go look up the numbers. Line drive rate. It spiked. He hit for more power. Whoa! What happens here? And then media that I don't want to call out, just absolutely fluffing this guy. Like, new dogs or old dogs can learn new tricks. He's back. All of you guys were ungrateful. He's here. And it almost felt like people would go out of the way to hype up his good qualities, which he did have, leadership, and that 1 year when he hit the ball hard, or hit the ball in the air, I should say. And he has that. And then on top of that, would also have moments where didn't seem to care about being in San Diego at all, right? As soon as he gets asked about a trade request, he freaks out on a reporter, Jeff Sanders of the San Diego Union Tribune. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand. That must be annoying to be asked about trade requests. Will Myers never did that. And you would know he was in trade rumors for like 6 years. You know what I mean? Will Myers never had a freak out. And lastly, and certainly not least, like I said about the fan stuff, the Ben and Woods, who host a really big show for San Diego Padres fans, they reached out to him, never went on the show. They've had Tatis. They've had Preller like once a month. They've had Manny. They've had Cronenworth. They've had everyone. But Hosmer inexplicably never went on the show. So it is more than that. Not just money, not just playing, not just deflection because of leadership, but also the fan base and all that stuff. That's why people like Will Myers. Yeah, he didn't come through and whatnot, but he was cool in the community. And like I said, when they beat the Dodgers, was literally at a bar buying shots for people. Hosmer never even did that. So that is why. And I'm glad he blocked my Padres account on Twitter. Although I blocked me on my personal. You coward. Come on. And it's totally his prerogative, by the way. If I was an athlete and people were talking smack, I'd probably block them too. But block me on my main account. Go ahead. It's the one with the anime picture. So go and find me.
Speaking of people who are out of the game, right? Isn't he unsigned? And the Padres are still paying him for 2 more years, $13 million a year. So
I would have appreciated you not bringing that up.
That's another. I mean, that's another reason to hate him. You owe him $13 million each of the next 2 years.
It's tough out here, and to keep on with it, he's not in the game. And then you have, I believe it was Austin Hedges mouthing off, "Hey, look at them, not doing so well without Eric Hosmer." And I'm like, what?
He is the most overrated player in the last 3 decades.
And I don't want to take away from players when we talk about the behind the scenes stuff. That stuff has to matter. It has to. It's just hard to measure.
You can have a coach providing that.
Exactly. And if you're never producing on the field, then it matters to me. And if you're getting paid so much because it actively will impact the team being able to spend more and add more players, then I care about that. You can't just dismiss fans and keep saying, well, he's a great leader. And without getting too much further
into it. Get a coach who's a great leader, man.
Exactly. Without getting too much further into it, folks, that's about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast. The only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves, as well as the Locked On Giants podcast. A huge chunky boy for you guys on this lovely Tuesday and or Wednesday, whenever you're listening to it, or 2028. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
who knows?
Like, hey, who are the most hated Padres of the early 2020s? Let me go listen to these guys.
This video is going to blow up, have like 10 million views, and people are going to be watching it for
Hosmer's
after we're gone. Yeah, Hosmer's going to block your YouTube channel. He's going to leave a comment and then block.
Leave a comment, then block. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Ben, do you have anything to plug?
You know I never do. Like, what would I plug?
Gotta ask anyway.
Like, what?
Go check him
out
on Twitter.
Mean? Yeah, Twitter.
At Ben Kaspick.
Yeah.
BenKaspick.
Yes.
As well as me at Javapeno, JAVIIPENO. Also at LO_Padres on Twitter. You'll find both of our accounts if you just look up stuff. So have fun with that. For me, tomorrow, stay tuned. We're going to be talking with Connor Newcomb about Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles and whether or not that's a fit, and also praising him for having new ownership as a team who had new ownership lately. I'm going to tell him, congrats. Welcome to the show. You actually have a chance now. So stay tuned to that, guys. But until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful, my Fire Faithful homies. And stay... I say gregarious every time, don't I?
It's yes, you do. And you're like, what? You're time, like, right? What am I? What did I just say?
Stay, just stay great.
Grateful? Great.
Yeah, just stay grateful, Giants friends. Stay grateful.
Yeah, you won 3 championships in a 5-year span. I get it. It's been rough since.
Yeah.
For periods, but still gratitude.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Until next time, everybody, take care.
All right, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, like I said, coming up tomorrow, the latest from spring training, as we have heard that Keaton Wynn is dealing with an elbow injury. MRI was clean, but nonetheless, like, there's some good pitchers out there, and this starting rotation looks really inexperienced. And Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, does this increase the likelihood? I think it should. We'll explain why and get into all of that. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Again, this was part 2, so check out part 1 if you enjoyed today's episode and you haven't checked out the first part of the episode. So I really hope you enjoyed this little segment, little thought experiment of players we love to hate with Javier Reyes. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for listening. See you tomorrow. You are now Locked On Giants.